Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today, we'll continue following the emotional story of Diep, Little Nhi, and James. After so many ups and downs, it seemed like their lives had finally turned to a new page, but challenges once again arrived unexpectedly. Diep still works tirelessly each day, taking care of Little Nhi while struggling to make a living with her basket of vegetables at the market. The innocent smiles of her young daughter are always the greatest source of strength, helping her carry on even when her heart is full of worries. James, the man who is both a pillar and a beacon of hope for Diep and her daughter, now has to face storms in the world of business. His father's harshness stripped him of almost everything, from power to finances. Yet instead of breaking down, James chose to rise again from the ground up, pouring all his heart and effort into proving his strength and protecting the trust Diep placed in him. And Little Nhi, a child so small, yet with such a strong heart. She remains carefree, innocently holding her mother's hand and giggling whenever James comes home. Her purity has unknowingly become the bond that keeps them together, ensuring that no matter how fierce the storms outside, the three of them can always find their way back to one another and to their little home. Will the challenges ahead make their love and bond even stronger, or will they be storms powerful enough to sweep everything away? The answer will gradually unfold in today's episode. Stay tuned. A simple morning. The sun still shyly hid behind the distant mountains, its first timid rays slipping through the gaps of erica leaves at the porch, painting the damp ground with golden specks as if sprinkled with honey. On the old tiled roof, dew from the night still clung in sparkling droplets, occasionally rolling down and shattering on the red bricks below. The distant crowing of roosters blended with the chirping of sparrows perched on the bamboo at the alley's entrance, heralding the start of a new day. In the small kitchen, Diep busied herself preparing the bundles of vegetables. Freshly picked from the field, they carried the cool, earthy fragrance of the morning soil, neatly tied and stacked into two heavy baskets. The weight bore down on her slender shoulders, yet in her eyes shone a steadfast faith. As long as she persevered, everything would be fine, and her daughter would one day enjoy a childhood more abundant and complete. She gently woke Little Nhi. The girl rubbed her sleepy eyes, then quickly followed her mother. The village path was still wrapped in mist, tiny droplets clinging to the grass and the fiery red hibiscus hedges. Diep carried the vegetables ahead, her steps steady though her breathing grew heavy from the load. Beside her, Nhi trotted along, sometimes tugging at her mother's hem, sometimes skipping ahead, chattering away with innocent, childlike questions that, every now and then, made Diep smile unconsciously, forgetting for a moment the burdens pressing on her shoulders. When they reached the market, a bustling scene unfolded. Calls of vendors echoed everywhere, fresh fish, warm meat, early fruits of the season. All of it blended into the lively symphony of daily life. Diep found her familiar spot and quickly laid out the vegetables on her worn bamboo tray. Nhi obediently sat beside her, carefully arranging each bundle neatly. Sweat dotted the girl's face, her cheeks flushed rosy from the morning sun, yet her eyes sparkled bright and clear like drops of dew. Passers-by couldn't help but stop and look. A familiar neighbor bought a few bundles, smiling as she said, "What a clever little girl, helping her mother so well from such a young age. She'll surely grow up to be capable." Hearing those words warmed Diep's heart, as if an invisible hand had soothed away her long days of hardship. The vegetables sold quickly. Few haggled, for everyone knew they were clean, fresh, and above all, they pitied the mother and daughter who worked so diligently from dawn. When only a few bundles remained, Diep finally allowed herself a short rest. She wiped the sweat streaming down her forehead with her sleeve. Her thin figure bore the marks of toil, yet her eyes glowed as she looked at her daughter. Nhi was still busily arranging the vegetables, her tiny hands stained with market dust, her lips curved in a pure, carefree smile, like a song rising above the sweltering summer morning. In that fleeting moment, Diep's nose stung with tears. Gratitude, and a simple happiness, welled up in her chest. It was because of her daughter that she found the strength to keep going, the courage to shoulder the burdens of these weary days. All hardship seemed to melt away, leaving only a sacred, eternal love, the love between mother and child. Diep let out a soft sigh, squeezed her little girl's hand, and whispered in her heart, "As long as you are by my side, walking with me through life's markets, there will be no hardship I cannot endure." Meanwhile, at the headquarters of the corporation, the usual bustling atmosphere suddenly turned suffocatingly heavy. In the vast conference room, the sparkling crystal lights shone down on the long varnished wooden table, yet no one among the board of executives dared to breathe too loudly. All sat with heads lowered, silently awaiting the eruption of their leader's fury. Mr. Hone, the chairman of the corporation, and also James's biological father, sat imposingly at the head seat, his eyes sharp as blades. His face bore the deep lines and hardened wrinkles of a lifetime spent building an empire. His voice thundered through the sealed room like a storm. "James, from this moment on, you are no longer worthy of sitting in the executive chair. You chose a small family, chose an ordinary woman, one who doesn't even match our status, instead of the honor of your entire lineage. So be it. Leave this company at once." The words struck like a hammer blow, shattering what little remained of the already tense atmosphere. A few senior leaders exchanged uneasy glances, but no one dared to speak in James's defense. They all knew, this was not just a professional decision, but the wrath of a father who felt betrayed. Immediately, Mr. Hone flicked his hand. A trembling finance officer bowed low before hastily carrying out the order to freeze all of James's bank accounts. James's phone buzzed non-stop, credit cards cancelled, accounts suspended, internal access blocked. Even his executive access card, the very symbol of his authority, was deactivated right before his eyes. In an instant, James, the once powerful CEO who commanded thousands of employees, became a man stripped bare. The room fell silent, save for the pounding of his heartbeat echoing in his chest. He stood there, his face pale, his fists clenched so tightly that his knuckles turned white. His heart sank, not because of the power, wealth, or prestige being stripped away, but because it was his own father who had coldly erased everything, without a thought for blood ties or family. For a fleeting moment, his body trembled. But James closed his eyes. In that dark instant, memories of Diep appeared vividly, his wife's slender figure bent under the weight of vegetables at the market, little Nee's innocent smile as she carefully arranged each bundle, the small house that, despite its simplicity, was always filled with warm sunlight and laughter. He whispered inwardly, carving each word into his heart. "I can lose everything, money, power, honor. But I will never lose Diep and me. Even if I must start again from nothing, even if I must walk against the storm, I will rebuild it all, so long as they remain by my side." When James opened his eyes again, his gaze had transformed. Gone was the confusion and despair, in its place burned a flame of unwavering resolve. The looks of pity and scorn in the room no longer swayed him. What they didn't understand was that, at this very moment, a new James had been born, stronger, determined, and ready to face everything, even the father who had disowned him. When she learned that her son had been driven to the brink by his own father, the mother's heart tightened painfully. All night she sat by the window, her eyes gazing into the empty courtyard under the pale silver moonlight. The wind creaked through the areca trees, the crickets chirped endlessly in the garden, every sound echoing her heavy sorrow. She tossed and turned, unable to sleep, torn between love and worry. On the family altar, the old photograph still remained. With trembling hands, she gently touched the wooden frame, her eyes lingering on the face of her husband, the man who had once been her pillar of strength, but who now stood as a cold wall, separating father and son. Tears welled up, spilling onto her blouse. She knew that if she, too, turned her back, James would surely collapse under the crushing storm. Without hesitation, she secretly transferred 5 billion dong, the savings of many years, hidden away as her last lifeline. That money was not merely material, it carried within it all her love, all her desperate hope that her son would stand tall, that she could preserve what little faith remained in their family. When James saw the notification of money transferred into his account, he froze. His body trembled, his heartbeat raced wildly. At once, he called his mother. His voice was hoarse, heavy with emotion. "Mom, why did you do this? I know how hard it was to save that money. It's sweat, tears, every single dong you painstakingly put aside over the years." On the other end, her voice was gentle yet quivering, as if she were holding back tears. "You are my own flesh and blood. How could I sit idly by while you were cornered? Money can always be earned again. But if my son were to fall, what reason would I have left to live?" James was silent, gripping the phone so tightly his knuckles turned white. Images of Diep and little Nhi flashed through his mind. They needed him strong, they needed him to rise. His eyes brimmed with tears, his throat constricted. After a long silence, he finally exhaled, his voice firm and resolute. "Mother, I will only take 3 billion. That is enough for me to rebuild from the ground up. Please keep the rest, in case you face hardship. I cannot let you lose everything because of me." On the other end, she was stunned. Her aged hand trembled against her chest as hot tears streamed down her face. In that moment, she saw a different James, not a reckless boy in need of protection, but a grown man, brave enough to face the storm, strong enough to fight fate with his own hands. Tears rolled down her kind face as she nodded softly, her voice choked yet brimming with pride. "My son. I believe you will succeed." In that moment, amidst life's tempests, a mother's love became the only anchor. And it was that warm, unwavering light that reignited the fire in James's heart, guiding his steps forward, no matter how many trials awaited him ahead. One still afternoon, the sky hung pale gray as if signaling an approaching rain. James appeared at the small turn leading to the familiar cafe, where he had arranged to meet his partner, Mr. Trang. Gone were the luxury suits of the past. Today, he wore simple yet neat attire, every crease ironed flat, radiating careful precision. His tidy hair, resolute expression, and fiery eyes made it clear, though stripped of power, James's aura remained undimmed. The cafe was not lavish, just rustic wooden tables and warm yellow lights, but its quiet atmosphere was perfect for serious discussions. In the farthest corner, Mr. Trang was already waiting. A man in his 50s, his weathered face and sun-darkened skin spoke of decades battling in the marketplace. His sharp eyes and faintly curved lips revealed the composure of someone long accustomed to weighing gains and losses. Known in the industry as meticulous, he rarely shook hands unless he saw true opportunity. James entered, bowed respectfully, and sat down across from him. In that moment, the air seemed to thicken. The clinking of a spoon against a cup, the hum of traffic outside, all faded, leaving only the confrontation between two men, one who had lost everything, and one who stood securely yet still sought to rise higher. James spoke first. His voice was low but firm, each word carrying the weight of conviction. "Sir, I want to invest in your textile company. I have 3 billion dong in exchange for 7% equity. But it won't stop there. I promise to help expand production, and more importantly, I will bring in clients from the US, South Korea, and Japan. I want to turn this brand into an international bridge." Mr. Trang narrowed his eyes, his gaze as sharp as a blade piercing into James. He had heard of James before, the heir of a conglomerate, backed by his father's power and wealth. Yet before him now was a different James, no power, no backing, only grit and empty hands. After a long silence, he asked slowly, "You are no longer a CEO. You've lost your authority, your family's support. So, why should I trust you?" The question was like a knife's edge, a test of steel. Many would have faltered, but James did not waver. Sitting tall, eyes blazing like fire, he replied, "I have executive experience. I have international networks. And above all, I have determination. When a man has nothing left to lose, he fears nothing. You may see me today as a failure, but this failure gives me the chance to rise again, stronger than ever. I do not need pity. I need a chance to prove my true worth." His words struck with such strength that the cafe seemed to fall silent. Mr. Trang studied him for a long time. In his seasoned eyes flickered a hint of surprise, then deep contemplation. At last, his lips curved into a smile, and he gave a slow but certain nod. "This spirit, it is not of one who has fallen." "Good. I need someone who dares to think, dares to act, and dares to take responsibility. You've shown me that. We will work together." Mr. Trang extended his sun-browned hand. James rose and clasped it firmly. That handshake was not merely a financial deal, but the start of a new journey, a pledge to move forward side by side. James drew a deep breath and lifted his head high. In his eyes no longer lingered the shadow of rejection, but only the blazing fire of a warrior. "My new path begins here." In that instant, he knew he had taken the very first step on the road to rebirth. On the way back from his important meeting, James instinctively turned his wheel toward the red dirt road leading to the farm, a place where he had poured not only effort and resources, but also his hopes and dreams for a new future. The car rolled slowly, raising a haze of dust in the twilight, like a thin mist settling over the rows of lush green trees swaying in the wind. The air here was nothing like the noisy bustle of the city. The scent of fresh soil, raw timber, and damp grass mingled into a fragrance of rare serenity. The closer he came, the faster his heartbeat pounded. From afar, he could already hear the rhythmic pounding of hammers, the clanging of steel, and the lively shouts of workers. It all came together like a symphony of labor, urging his steps forward. When the car stopped at the gate, the sight before him made James pause. Rows of workshops with gleaming tin roofs reflected the day's last sunlight into dazzling streaks. All around, workers busied themselves with the final touches. Some climbed ladders to secure steel frames, others tested the automatic irrigation system, while a few swept clean the fresh brick floors. Laughter mixed with the smell of new paint and cement, imprinting in James's mind an image of a vibrant beginning. A manager hurried over, sweat streaking his face but pride shining in his eyes. "Sir, the progress has reached 95%. In just 4 or 5 days, the entire farm will be complete. You and your family can move in any time after that." Hearing those words, James nodded, the corners of his lips lifting into a quiet but heartfelt smile. He walked along the path, running his hand gently across the freshly painted wall, eyes glowing with certainty and renewed faith. Each brick, each beam of wood, every drop of sweat from the workers seemed to be shaping not just a property, but a home. In his mind, James pictured Diep in a simple dress, holding little Nie in her arms, both of them smiling brightly at the gate of their new home as they stepped into a new chapter of life. He could almost hear Nie's joyous laughter echoing across the garden, and Diep's gentle voice filling a warmly lit kitchen. The thought stirred within him an indescribable swell of emotion. Clenching his fist, James whispered to himself, the words soft yet resounding from the depths of his heart. "Diep, there will be a surprise for you. A true surprise to show you that I never gave up." that I never stopped dreaming of our family's future. In the crimson glow of the setting sun that bathed the farm, James stood tall, the wind tugging lightly at his shirt. His eyes fixed firmly on the horizon, burning with determination. There, in the distance, he clearly saw the image of happiness waiting for him, and the new path he had chosen, though full of thorns, had truly begun. Late at night, the small street was wrapped in stillness. The dim yellow glow of the street lamps fell across the patchy brick pavement, weaving shadows of light and dark. From afar came the sound of a dog barking, and now and then the roar of a late motorbike echoed through the narrow alley, making the silence feel even deeper. James drove slowly toward the familiar house. When he stopped at the gate, he noticed the light still shining from the small kitchen window, gentle and warm, like a flame that soothed his weary soul after a long day of struggle. A wave of peace washed over him, sweeping away the burdens in his heart. Inside the modest kitchen, Diep and LyTuDiep had already finished preparing dinner. On the old wooden table, a few simple dishes were neatly arranged: a bowl of steaming boiled greens, a plate of caramelized fish glistening with fragrance, and a small clay bowl of crunchy pickled eggplants. To many, it might seem like just an ordinary meal, but to James, it was the very taste of home, the essence of family, where all storms of the business world faded into nothing, leaving only warmth and simplicity. As the door opened, LyTuDiep squealed, her voice ringing as clear as birdsong. "Daddy! You're home!" Her tiny feet pattered across the floor as she ran to cling tightly to James, refusing to let go. Her face beamed, eyes sparkling with pride as she eagerly shared her accomplishment. "Today I helped Mommy sell vegetables, Daddy. I even learned how to stack them neatly." James laughed, lifting his daughter high and spinning her around, her laughter bubbling like music in the quiet night. Then he held her close, pressing a gentle kiss to her soft hair, still carrying the scent of sunshine and market winds. In that moment, every weariness in him dissolved, replaced by a flood of warmth. He thought to himself, every effort is worth it. Just to see this smile, all burdens become light. From the kitchen doorway, Diep stepped out, her hands still damp with dishwater, wiping them on her apron as she watched her husband and daughter with a tender smile. Her eyes glowed with simple yet precious happiness. And yet, beneath that joy, a faint unease stirred in her heart. Lately, James had changed, quieter, often lost in thought, his gaze sometimes distant, his smile touched by a weariness she could not name. The family gathered around the meal. LyTuDiep chattered endlessly about her day at the market, how customers praised her, how she dropped a bundle of vegetables and quickly picked it back up. James listened intently, nodding at times, chuckling softly at others, his eyes brimming with love. Across from him, Diep watched father and daughter with her heart tightening. The scene was so peaceful, so perfect, but the more serene it appeared, the deeper her worry grew. He really has changed, as if he's hiding something. If I keep silent, I'll never know the truth. Tonight, I must ask. Her eyes dimmed slightly as she tightened her grip on her chopsticks, forcing her voice to remain calm so as not to weigh down the meal. But inside, her heart beat faster, waiting for the right moment to speak, even knowing the truth might be something hard to face. After dinner, the little house was bathed in the warm glow of the yellow lamp. Diep sat quietly on the porch, her eyes drifting toward the room where James was laughing and playing with LyTuDiep. The child's giggles blended with the father's deep laughter, echoing through the air like a simple yet vibrant melody of everyday life. Watching the scene, a tide of emotions rose within Diep. She remembered the early mornings carrying vegetables to the market with Nhi, the weary hours when just a hug from her daughter was enough to ease the fatigue. Out there, mother and child struggled for every coin, selling each bundle of greens to sustain the family. And James, though stripped of power and wealth by his own father, had risen again with resilience, carving out a new path for them all. The farm, the fruit of his tireless pursuit, was now nearly complete. In just a few days, a new home, a new beginning, would await their family. The thought filled Diep with a quiet sense of hope, a light flickering amid the hardships of recent days. Yet even within that warmth, unease stirred. She realized how much James had changed. He spoke less, his gaze sometimes distant, his smile tinged with a hidden weight. The gentle, caring husband she loved seemed to be carrying a burden behind his calm exterior. Diep clenched her hands, whispering inwardly, "James, you've already lost so much, and I know you're fighting every day. But this change in you, what does it mean? Are you hiding something from me, or simply trying to protect me from worry? Tonight, I must find the answer." Her eyes lingered on James as he held their daughter close, his face glowing with simple happiness. The sight was both beautiful and bittersweet, as if hinting that behind the veil of peace, storms were still waiting for their small family. The little home glowed in gentle light, appearing serene on the surface, yet beneath it, unspoken worries remained. James, the man who had lost everything yet stood strong again, was he hiding something from Diep? And when the truth comes to light, what will become of this fragile home? Leave your comments, hit like, and stay tuned for the next episode. Walk with Diep, Little Nhi, and James through this journey full of trials, yet overflowing with love.
Xin chào tất cả mọi người, lại là mình đây. Hôm nay thì mình rất vui vì lại có thể gặp lại mọi người trong video tiếp theo hôm nay ở trên kênh của mình. Và mình hy vọng rằng không những hôm nay và trong tất cả những video sắp tới thì mình vẫn có thể gặp và chào mọi người như thế này. Và đây là một phút chia sẻ ở cuối video. Mình hy vọng rằng video hôm nay sẽ mang đến nhiều niềm vui hơn cho mọi người. Và hy vọng rằng mọi người sẽ yêu quý kênh mình hơn, yêu quý các nhân vật Diep, Diệp hay là Lý Hoài Ca, Hùng nhiều hơn nữa, và dành tình cảm nhiều hơn. Nếu như mà có ý kiến đóng góp gì cho kênh của mình cũng như là cho các nhân vật thì mọi người có thể để lại ở phần bình luận. Và đặc biệt hãy nhớ rằng ấn like video để ủng hộ và để lại bình luận góp ý, cũng như là hãy đăng ký kênh, sau đó là ấn vào nút chuông, bật chuông thông báo lên để không bỏ lỡ bất kỳ video nào mọi người nhé. Còn bây giờ thì mình xin phép chào tạm biệt mọi người, hẹn gặp lại mọi người trong những video tiếp theo. Bye bye.